Look at our weather across the region because storms are rolling into the area and the cold right behind it.
Yeah, that's right. We have some rain out over central Missouri right now. These storms are not severe and will not be severe, but we do have a chance for some severe storms later this afternoon. That threat is mainly over western Missouri. Where is western Missouri? Well, out toward Kansas City in this location for our severe weather outlook this afternoon. Large hail and isolated tornado threat is possible with some of these thunderstorms that develop later this afternoon. Notice, though, that circled area is pretty far west of Columbia. I think the threat is west of Columbia and west of Highway 63. You folks out into Sheraton, Saline, Pettis, and maybe even into Morgan counties. And you're going to have to watch out for the possibility for some stronger storms later this afternoon and this evening. The timing looks to be around 4 o'clock for some of those storms to develop out over eastern Kansas and far western Missouri. Eventually, some of these storms get closer and closer into Missouri. And strong winds and big hail is expected out of this storm system, too. And our tornado threat, it's not zero. We do have a couple of tornadoes that could be possible if some of these thunderstorms do actually develop later today. Here's a look at the live Doppler first alert radar at this time. A couple of light showers trying to move through the state. These are not severe by any means. These are all what we call elevated thunderstorms. Those are high up storms. Those storms do not have the potential for any severe weather. The area for storm development, though, that's over eastern Kansas, out where this cold front is. We'll watch this area around 2 to 4 o'clock is where the storms will start to develop, and then those will start to move eastward. We'll keep a very close eye on those. Your afternoon planner looks like this: 74 at 1, 75 at 4. A couple of light showers could be possible. We'll just have to watch for what this evening has to come. I have that forecast in full detail coming for you just in a little bit.
Tim, thank you so much. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are calling for Governor Greitens to resign after Wednesday's report. GOP Representative Rob Schaaf penned a letter to President Trump asking him to call for Greitens to resign. The letter was also signed by Republican Senators Doug Libla and Gary Ramin. Democratic Senator Gina Walsh also says the Democratic caucus has lost faith in the governor. She's calling for the House of Representatives to begin an impeachment process when it reconvenes on Tuesday.
Moral turpitude. I mean, for crying out loud. He coerced a young woman. He slapped her. Do you want him leading your state? I don't want him leading my state.
Along with Senator Walsh, Republican Senators Mike Kehoe, Rob Schaaf, and Democrat Maria Chappelle-Nadal called for Greitens to step down or be impeached. Lawmakers are considering a special session to discuss impeachment. House Speaker Todd Richardson says he will talk with party leaders. A House committee investigating Greitens is extending its work until the end of this session. After that, a special session would be required. Governor Greitens released a statement calling the House's committee report, quote, incomplete Wednesday. Prosecutors gave Greitens' attorneys a video of his former hairdresser's testimony after the committee released its report. Greitens' team says the videotaped interview backs up the claim the encounter was consensual. The statement says in part, quote, the report that was put out Wednesday did not contain this evidence, and the allegations in that report will be refuted by facts, including this video, depositions, discovery, and other evidence that will be subjected to the rigors of a courtroom analysis. In 32 days, now 31, a court of law and a jury of my peers will let every person in Missouri know the truth and prove my innocence. KOMU 8 News spoke to a political science expert who says it's now a wait-and-see game for the governor. Terry Smith said what happens in the governor's trial could lead to a lengthy impeachment process, but some leaders are asking for immediate action. Smith says the relationship between Greitens and the rest of the legislature has been strained, but this is a tipping point.
They're prepared to, and in fact are quite effectively, pursuing their own political agenda with or without the governor.
Smith says no matter what happens in Greitens' trial, his political legacy is now tarnished. With the committee's report coming out more than a month before the governor's trial, the question stands, will this taint a jury pool for his criminal trial? KOMU 8 talked with a former prosecutor who says Wednesday's information could play a major role in finding a fair and impartial jury.
What affects a jury trial is, number one, you have jurors that potentially have been tainted by both houses, 2-to-1 majority Republican houses against a Republican governor, announcing that the woman is credible. All right, that's damning if you are a juror and you pick that up at all.
Now, the governor denied his opportunity to testify in the committee's report. Tackett says this is standard strategy. However, Greitens did make several public statements while refusing to comment for that committee. While most criticism is pointed at the governor, Democratic Senator Maria Chappelle-Nadal said she's disturbed by her colleagues' reaction to Wednesday's report.
Those facts are absolutely disgusting and abhorrent. Stay consistent. I'm asking the entire General Assembly to take it seriously when it comes to sexual harassment and when it comes to sexual assault, because I can tell you, as the victim, it does not feel good.
Chappelle-Nadal said in her nearly 18 years working at the Capitol, she's been sexually harassed 3 times. She said only one of her 197 colleagues tried to console her. She calls it hypocrisy that so many are criticizing the governor now.
If you're going to stand up and speak against the governor for what he did that was wrong, then you stand up not just for Democrats who have been sexually harassed, but you stand up for Republicans who have been sexually harassed. You stand up for every single person that has been sexually harassed or sexually assaulted. You do not pick and choose.
The Missouri legislative session resumes Tuesday, and lawmakers are expected to discuss how to move forward. Greitens' criminal trial starts May 14th. You can find a full breakdown of the report along with the governor's reaction on KOMU.com. Tensions were high at last night's city council meeting in New Bloomfield. Residents questioned the city council about why there's no money for a police department. They wanted to know where taxpayer money is going. A group has already turned in a petition to get a state audit. The town does its own audit every year, but critics say it's time to get someone independent to look over things.
We feel it's adequate for us as citizens that have commissioned the state auditor's office to do an audit to allow them to do that audit to find out if they are hiding things from us and where exactly all our money is going.
New Bloomfield has been without any police since its chief, the sole officer, stepped down. Currently, the town relies on Callaway County deputies to help out. In your national news, fired FBI Director James Comey's book leaked overnight. He calls the president a liar, compares him to a mob boss, and says his administration is a forest fire. NBC's Peter Alexander gives us a look inside that book.
At the White House this morning, new fallout from a bombshell book. Former FBI Director James Comey unloading in a blistering takedown of President Trump.
James, will you please? He's become more famous than me.
Nearly a year after his firing, Comey still looms large over the Trump presidency. In his explosive new memoir, A Higher Loyalty, Comey calls the president unethical and untethered to the truth, and highlights Donald Trump's apparent fixation with salacious but unverified details from an intelligence dossier, including allegations that Russians had recorded Mr. Trump with prostitutes at a Moscow hotel in 2013. Comey writes during a private conversation at Trump Tower in January 2017, President-elect Trump strongly denied the allegations, asking, rhetorically I assumed, whether he seemed like a guy who needed the service of prostitutes. He then began discussing cases where women had accused him of sexual assault, a subject I had not raised, Comey writes. He mentioned a number of women and seemed to have memorized their allegations. NBC News obtained a copy of the book due out on Tuesday, along with other news outlets, including the Washington Post.
Comey says Trump called him the next week to mention the dossier again, to try to convince him that the allegations were not true, and asked him if the FBI would investigate them.
The nation's former top law enforcement officer compares President Trump to notorious mobster Sammy the Bull, explaining how his interactions with the president gave him flashbacks to my earlier career as a prosecutor against the mob, the boss in complete control, the loyalty oaths, the us versus them worldview. All of it, in Comey's words, creating the forest fire that is the Trump presidency. What is happening now is not normal, he writes. It is not fake news. It is not okay. Comey also defends his handling of the Clinton email investigation.
It makes me mildly nauseous to think that we might have had some impact on the election.
Comey now writes, I have read that she felt anger toward me personally, and I'm sorry for that.
A White House statement released this morning says Comey has, quote, no credibility. We're going to take a live look now over in Missouri. You're looking at the Lake of the Ozarks and those storm clouds that are moving in. It is 12:09. You're watching KOMU 8 News at noon. Coverage you can count on.
Track storms wherever you are. Download the free KOMU 8 weather and